Chapter 8, Wiracocha Inca Yupanqui, the 8th Inca, our King Lear. Okay, so that you can get more or less an idea of what this chapter is all about, we're talking about the 8th Inca and basically the beginning of the Yupanqui dynasty. And as you recall, Wiracocha was a king with a very bad destiny or karma, and left many children, many princes, and at the time of his death, which was abrupt, the town of Cusco decided to get together and elect a prince. And there was a powerful lady who said, why in the world are we fighting who to be the prince or the Sapa Inca when we already have one who is a valorous prince, a warrior, and the most capable. That is Hatun Topa Inga, which means the most powerful Inca at the time, or warrior. So, and why the name of King Lear? Well, as many of you have read or heard of Shakespeare, King Lear is basically a king. It's a tragedy of Shakespeare in which King Lear, for some reason, decides to abandon more or less his empire and tries to divide among three daughters, and they are trying to select who loves him the most. So that is why I call this a King Lear, because that's basically what he did, is to abandon his kingdom in a way, and it gets a little more complicated. And he leaves the kingdom to one of his illegitimate sons, and then he's got a son which is Hatun Topa Inga, which in this case will be Kusi Yupanqui, or the future Pachacute. And there is a lot of intricacies. It's kind of confusing, but what I want you to keep in mind is that it's a tragedy. It's a real tragedy, and through the chronics that I read, that appears to me that's exactly what happened. The Chancas are coming to Cusco, and they're going to take it, and he abandons Cusco. He goes to the mountains of Sacsayhuamán, which is away from Cusco, and leaves for the Chancas to take over this Cusco. But then there's the prince, Prince Yupanqui, who eventually recovers Cusco. But the father is the Wiracocha, is the one who abandons the sacred city, and is the son who recovers, and you're going to be seeing basically a tragedy, a Shakespearean tragedy. So I will go ahead with the reading.
Soy el profesor Rafael Cifuentes, ¿no? Hoy es el 23 de abril del año 2018. Estamos con el doctor Carlos Sánchez. Estamos en el capítulo del Inca Wiracocha, ¿no? Este Inca toma el nombre de un dios, ¿no? Y es el único Inca que prácticamente abandona Cusco a su suerte, ¿no? Se retira hacia un espacio lejano. Su hijo, Pachacute, ¿no? Que es quien defiende la ciudad, ¿no? Y hasta pasa mucho tiempo, digamos, para que ceda la máscara a Pachacute, ¿no? Porque no lo quería, porque quería cederlo a su hijo preferido, ¿no? Entonces, esto nos da una visión, ¿no? De cómo, al igual que en otro tipo de reyes europeos o asiáticos, ¿no? También hay este tema de celos, intrigas, ¿no? entre entre jefes, entre reyes, ¿no?
Ajá.
Brevemente relátanos, por favor, esa retirada de él, ¿no? Deja Cusco y esa relación que hay entre Wiracocha y su hijo Pachacútec.
Professor Cifuentes is kind of enthralled by the history of this Wiracocha Inca, who abandons Cusco and goes to a far away place in Caquicahuana, and he's intrigued also, although we're coming later yet, and yet it's in the same, more or less, the chapter is enlaced in between Wiracocha and the son and another illegitimate son. So he's already getting ahead by this really very well-known figure in the Inca history, Pachacútec. But these are the beginnings of Cusi Inca Yupanqui for the next Inca, who would be Pachacútec. And in here there is a lot of Shakespearean type of tragedy in which the son is hated by his father because he was able to defend and save the sacred city of Cusco and defeat the Chancas. And as you start to read, you're going to see how he is so loyal to his father, loyal to his people, loyal to Cusco, and he wants order in the transition of the government, or in this case, the transference of the Mascai Pacha or the crown to the true prince. So he's trying to create an order in the politics of the Inca Empire, and he does not dethrone his father. He could have done, but he didn't. And of course, we also go into how more or less dangerous warriors these Incas were. They were very tenacious. They followed the Chancas all the way to the Chinchay Suyo, the north, and then after he defeats them, well, he makes them his slave warriors in a way. But then he comes back, and then he takes revenge on the dead. In other words, the dead Chancas, he does horrible things that you're going to read. And then he also revenge on the Ayarmancas who are alive, and then he kills them. And then more or less, he takes even revenge on his father. And it's almost the beginning of the rise of the Inca Empire. And that's why the Professor Cifuentes is very intrigued about this chapter, which we all are, because it's the beginning of the Inca Empire. More or less we could say, like in Rome, is the Caesar, the beginning more or less of the Roman Empire. So 8th chapter, Wiracocha Inca Yupanqui, the 8th Inca, our King Lear. Hatun Topa Inca, are you going to rectify what is written about you in this journey of our souls? Oh, you are the man of the future who is lost in the yonder of our existence. Your professional life with the young should concern you with the living rather than the dead who have no future. Precisely, the children of your descendants who live in the most abject misery make me think of their fate, and I see no end to their predicament. Let me see if I understand you. You are coming to us, the dead, to save the living, and in the process, you are making us responsible for your miserable present. Inca, I have no other intention than to get to know who you were, so I can understand who am I. Tell me, who was that lady who spoke so highly of you, and you were elected to the throne. I was the only prince in my lineage to continue with the Inca dynasty, and maybe she knew that the most important agenda was to keep a hold of Cusco. My prime duty is to fulfill our destiny. For that to happen, my name has to have a divine meaning before I marry and crown myself. Weeks later, the prince spoke to his subjects. In my sleep, Tixri Wiracocha Pacha Yachachik appeared to me. With that vision, I will name myself Wiracocha Inca Yupanqui, and begin to forge a powerful empire. For far beyond the Cordilleras, there are evil warlords spreading terror. If someday the Chancas reach to our gates, I hope they will come while I'm still young, and not when I am an old man. With those prophetic words, the newly anointed Inca left the podium. The visiting leaders of faraway places were perplexed by his new surname, which would make him the greatest lord in all the lands. In his first campaign to Calca, he took his generals Viticarao and Apamaita. Inca Roca, his brother, stayed in Cusco as his second in command. Months later, the Inca warriors fought the Calcas in the main square. By noon, Wiracocha's men were victorious. The Inca received the vanquished, who spoke without looking at him. Great Wiracocha, we have our women, children, and elders in the city. Spare their lives. We know that you were born to rule, and we to serve you. Then we will make a treaty under these conditions. You will build a palace in Sacsayhuamán for my old age, and we will form a solid alliance. The Chanks are coming, and those barbarians make no treaties. With an army incremented by the levy of conquered warriors, the Inca marched by the shores of the Vilcanota River to Caitomarca. Two messengers crossed to the other side of the river with some difficulty, and they spoke to their leaders, who were unfriendly to them. Cursed Incas, what brings you to our lands? Caitomarcas, we are the messengers of the sun. He says that you must surrender and pay him tribute. No, we will not. His army will be unable to cross the river. Tell him that we will do neither. Wiracocha became infuriated at hearing their negative answer. Chasquis, get up. It is not your fault that you have heard those words of disrespect against me, but be afraid for your lives if you divulge what you have heard. The Inca camped for the night. Apamaita, we don't fight without the lights of the sun, but the gods do. Get me some round stones, cover them with that dark oil substance that comes out of the soil, and light each until it's red hot. Inca, what do you have in mind? Apamaita, these people are superstitious. They will succumb to our gods, who are more powerful than their idols. Sapa Inca, we are the ones who will be fighting and not the gods. How are you going to throw incandescent stones? Your sling will burn them. No, I will throw them in my golden covered sling. The projectiles fell on the dry hacha roof of the temple. The Caitomarca swore that the fireballs fell from the heavens, that the gods were protecting the Incas. After an all night of fire, the defeated warriors crossed the river and surrendered before the Inca. Warriors of Caitomarca, Inti would not have scorched your town if you had listened to my messengers. I will not take revenge upon you. The Chancas will come, and we must be united. Sapa Inca, the Lord of Pisac, where you want to build your palace, has risen against you. We have also heard that the Ayarmancas are having secret conversation with the Chancas, and the Muinas are up in arms. What to do? Kuntursoul, my nobles of Cusco, are talking with the enemy, knowing well they could be fatal. Inca, I am beginning to understand the reasons of our unwillingness to unite for the greater good of all. Now you know why we had to be tyrants in order to form an empire. Vica Quirao, go to Cusco. I will march south to pacify the Moinas and continue to capture the spiritual site of Tixi, Wiracocha, Pachayacha Chief. Upon his arrival, Vica Quirao found the imperial city tainted with the blood of the nobles. He sent an emissary to Wiracocha. Sapa Inca, Capac, your uncle, has deposed Inca Roca, and the Urin Cuscos from Lower Cusco are having secret meetings with the Chancas. Wiracocha, who was getting older and disheartened by his own people, marched to the imperial city. Capac took his own life and that of his family. He knew that the wrath of the Inca would be such that no one in his lineage remained alive. Having pacified Cusco, the Inca began to do civil works. Some years later, he prepared for an expedition to Cacha, as he had planned. With a well-provisioned army, the Inca took the sanctuary of Wiracocha. In a way, he had taken the Jerusalem of the Andes, and he spent days imploring in the enclosure of the temple. Oh, Tixi, Wiracocha, Pachayacha Chief, you will rule supreme over other idols. With that mission, I will go to the land of the Canas. With the taking of Cacha and the capitulation of the Canas, Wiracocha had come to the end of his most ambitious undertakings. The Inca returned to Cusco, where his favorite son, Urco, had managed to create dissension within the nobles and the priests. Wiracocha was not well received in spite of all his accomplishments. Kuntursoul, among my many concubines, I have a preferred one, Curichulpa. She wants the empire to be ruled by her son Urco. Since the Chancas are getting closer, I'm going to Sacsayhuamán, where I will be able to govern without intrigues. Urco will stay in Cusco as my representative. Sapa Inca, Urco drinks excessively, and he's having affairs with the virgins of the sun. He will be the cause of your downfall. Why don't you name Kusi Yupanqui, your younger son, with your legitimate wife as your second in command? While Cusco was becoming a geopolitical center, the nobles were concerned about a new ruler and a possible war. Wiracocha left Cusco, leaving the empire to the winds of an uncertain future. Generals, what are you going to do? Kuntursoul, we will see if Urco changes his ways, now that he's in control of the sacred city. It's time that you encounter him. I will, Apamaita. Urco, the ancient storytellers erase you person from their tales, and the historians seldom mention your name. I still think that you had a place in the succession of the Incas. Listen, I'm not about to talk of our past, as you have been doing with the other Incas who didn't have the guts to do whatever they pleased. You are misunderstanding freedom with lack of self-control. Man of the future, you are like the rest of our people, who are always begging for approval, and they are not resigned to accept their destiny. You think that you are proud of your Indian heritage, when you actually despise them. You wish you could change the image of your ancestors to overcome your inadequacies. Don't disturb our bones with the excuse of coming to vindicate us. If you want to uplift yourself from your sordid past, I will show you how we fornicated. That should be more interesting to the people of your days instead of the incoherences that you are saying about us. Get out of my sight, you disgust me. Urco, I once was like you, but my passions are no longer in flames. Now I want some answers to the why of my existence. Someday you will also be living the last days of your being, and you may want to reflect on who you were. Kuntursoul, can you see that I will never be an old man? Vikakirao and Apomaita would have gotten rid of me if it were not for Wiracocha. Everybody's clamoring for Kuntursoul to be the next Inca lord. Runners or Chasquis come from the Apurima River with bad news. Prince Urco, the Chancas are going to cross the great speaker, and we're not ready to confront them. What are you going to do? Apomaita, send runners or Chasqui to ask Wiracocha what he wants me to do. Kuntursoul, my father has always managed to get us out of trouble. Urco, he's too old. That is why you are in command. Man of the future. Nothing is going to happen if the Chancas conquer us. We will remain the same savage that humanity thinks we are. Who gives a damn about us? Not even the international court, whom you are planning to approach on our behalf. The so-called Indians are not so destitute as you portray them to be. If you were one of them, you would be content with your fate just like they are. But no, you probably have one drop of Spanish blood and you want to be somebody. Why don't you go and live in the high Cordilleras where in the solitude of the Andes you will find out who you are without tormenting our beleaguered souls. Urco, I wish our people were as assertive as you are, for pride of our Inca heritage is what we lack. Why would anyone want to be like me? Urco, what you have said has a deeper meaning, but we have to voice the injustice done to us following the protocols of those who are in control of the world in order to be heard. Are you implying that we should tell someone who is humiliating us to go to hell in an acceptable manner? Urco, sometimes the people who get ahead are the most intolerable hypocrites. Then you're one of them, and I want no part of your times. Apomaita, you have taken a long time to return. What did my father have to say? Urco, the reasons for my tardiness is that before I could get an answer, Wiracocha secluded himself to do sacrifices. After those prolonged sessions, he came out saying that the augurs for Cusco were not good, and that all his concubines and children should come to Calca, where he would be able to make better pacts with the Chancas. Apomaita, I have to follow my father's wishes. The army is with him, and there are no warriors in Cusco. The only ones who will stay are the priests, who are in complicity with the enemy. Urco, I have to discuss this matter with Kuntursoul. He also has to come with me, as my father has indicated. Apomaita relayed the message to the prince. Kuntursoul, if we all go with Urco, we will lose Cusco forever. The young prince responded as if prophesying. No, I was born to die like an Inca. I will remain the sacred city to safeguard Inti. Far to the northwest, fearless warriors prepare to cross to the city of the sons of the sun. Who were they? Like in the legend of Manco Cápac, the Chancas began their lineage with two siblings, Uscovilca and Ascovilca. And like the four Inca brothers, they started a reign of terror. When their spiritual leaders died, their descendants formed a warlordship led by three brothers, Astoy Wiracocha, Tomay Wiracocha, and Waman Wiracocha. In time, they will reach the imperial city where the greatest event in the Andean history would unfold. Prince Yupanqui, the Chancas are at the gate of Cusco. For defense were only 7. Your brother Inga Roca, Quilascachi, Urco Wiracocha, Topa Huarochiri, and 2 uncles, and you, Apomaita, were few. May history remember this moment in which we find ourselves alone. If mankind were conscious of our past as they are of others, Hollywood would have already produced a version of the magnificent 7 Incas. But it's very unlikely that the tragedy of the natives of the Americas will be ever told on the wide screen, like the Israeli epic of Ben-Hur, or the miniseries Roots about the first Africans who were brought to America as slaves. Instead, the movie industry has always belittled the Indians, portraying them as ignorant savages. Once the Chancas crossed the Apurimac River, Astoy Wiracocha sent Man Wiracocha to ask Wiracocha to surrender. Meanwhile, the prince began to plot the defense of Cusco. Apomaita, go to my father and ask him for his troops. Bika Kirao, go and see if the surroundings of the communities give us their men. I will stay in the temple to offer sacrifices. Apomaita, why are you coming alone? I hope that you and your nephews are not thinking of fighting against the Chancas. Let them take Cusco. We have the whole of the Antisuyo to expand eastward. Sapa Inca Wiracocha, we're only asking you to give us the army to defend the imperial city. I will not. I will make a treaty with the Chancas when the emissary comes. Apomaita, what did my father have to say? Prince Yupanqui, he will not help us. We're going to lose the sacred city. Bika Kirao, what news you bring from the valley? I hope the people will fight for a cause, which is also theirs. No, they think that if they help us, they will have a worse fate with the Chancas, who so far have not asked anything of them. They also said that your father is not willing to give you his truth. Then why should they? Enough. Don't tell me what I already know. Someday I will teach them to be united for a common purpose. Against the apathy of the people, the prince had to see ways of fighting an enemy who was already making a pact with his father. Inca Wiracocha, greetings from Astoy Wiracocha. He is pleased that you are going to surrender without a fight. Where are your other sons, especially Kusi Yupanqui? They should all be here for a capitulation. Waman Wiracocha, I am not responsible for my son. You can send a messenger to tell your lord that he can take Cusco. Lord Astoy Wiracocha, I bring great news. Wiracocha and Urco have surrendered in Sacsayhuamán. Cusco is yours. Was Kusi Yupanqui there? No, my lord. The 5 brothers and his 2 uncles are still in Cusco. I don't understand. They have no troops. But it doesn't matter. In a way, if I take Cusco with an Inca prince fighting for his city, my victory will be more meaningful. I want you to go to the sacred city and tell Kusi Yupanqui that I will give him 3 months to master some troops and prove his warring skills against me. Estoy Wiracocha, let me go instead of the messenger. I will apprehend those 7 arrogant nobles. No, Tomai Wiracocha. I have to capture him, and nobody will dispute that I am the victor. Chanca messenger, go back and tell your lord that I am willing to die today or in 3 months. This sacred city has never been taken since the great Manco Cápac, and that is not going to happen with me. Brothers, as a last resort, send envoys to the Canas and Sánchez and offer them the privilege of becoming Incas of privilege and fight for us. Meanwhile, we will dig pits, build barricades, and fight against those who are able to penetrate the city. As the people busied themselves, the night approached. Kusi Yupanqui went to the temple, where in the emptiness of his golden chambers, he implored to the creator of all. Oh, Tixi Wiracocha, you who created glory and defeat, do not abandon me in this moment of great need. Oh, Inti, I am the last and the sole keeper of your faith. Do not let me worship other idols. Give me a sign by which I would know that you will help me. Having said those words, he fell asleep. In his dreams, Tixi Wiracocha appeared to him as brilliant as the sun. Prince Yupanqui, there is greatness in your heart and nobility in your soul. For millennia you shall be remembered, because you never lost faith in your ancestors. This war is a test of your will. In the midst of this chaos that awaits for you, you will be victorious. When the prince awoke, he was greeted by his followers, who saw in him an aura of invisibility. Prince Yupanqui, why your enthusiasm? Did you get troops? If so, where are they? And how many are there? Incas, do not fear. Tixi Wiracocha promised me that we will win if we don't lose faith in Inti. The 3 months were up. Cusco was ready for the day of reckoning. At sunrise, the chancas started to come down from the surrounding hills of Cusco, not knowing that many of them would die in the pits and barricades of lances. Legions of them managed to get through, and they fought in every corner and thoroughfare of the city. The chancas with long oiled hair and painted bodies used their arrows against the well-dressed Inca warriors who had refined tools of war. In a hand-to-hand combat, men fell to the death, shouting with their last breath the names of their idols. In the midst of chaos, the prince was struck in the head. In his semi-conscious state, he went to the temple to get more arms. Still in a daze, he came out and ran to the field of battle, oblivious of his surroundings. Blinded by the glare of the sun and deafened by the sounds of war, he heard someone calling him as he exclaimed, "Oh, Inti, what is that you want to tell me?" It was a vanishing voice coming from the temple who kept on calling him, "Prince Yupanqui, come back to retrieve you to Payauri. Without your golden scepter, you will not be victorious." Startled by what he heard, he looked back to where that distant voice was coming from. He saw an old man calling him to reclaim the staff of sovereignty. Finally, the prince recognized that voice, and he returned to the temple. Oh, one chitty, old man and wise priest, the gods have abandoned me. Tell me if we have already lost. Where are the rest of my men? Prince Yupanqui, the gods are with you. The fight is not over. Take your scepter and return to the field of battle. I have offered sacrifice to Inti. He has told me to form an army that will be at your command. Hurry, the sun is still with us. When Inti goes to sleep, you will be the victor of the day. Oh, Wanchiri, it all seems so blurred. Who are these well-armed warriors who are not fighting? Oh, I'm seeing visions. No, great Prince Yupanqui, the gods are with you. They have sent the Purung Aucas. With this army of stone warriors, you will fulfill your destiny. With an army who didn't seem to move, he exhorted them, warriors, don't just stay there. Get up and follow me. In his delirious state, he saw the stone effigies silently move as they were in the robots seen in the space movies. Oh, Tixi Wiracocha, what is that I'm seeing? Could this be real, or I'm already at Inti's side? With automatic movements and quadrangular steps, the stone warriors began to follow the prince, who ran to the field of battle, lifting high his golden scepter, which shined against the last rays of the sun. Those phantasmal beings were the people waiting to see the outcome of the first encounter before deciding whether to fight or not. As they saw the prince in mystical trance, the men took the courage to follow him. Come on, follow me, the victory is ours. Chaya, Chaya, to them, to them. Nobody dared to confront the prince with the appearance of a sudden army. Meanwhile, the Chancas had infiltrated deep into the city, where a woman was valiantly shouting, "Curse Chancas, you will never take Cusco. If you do, you have to kill me first. We are few, but we have our idols with us, and you will never enter the Inti Cancha." Furiously swinging her mace, the Chancas ran away from Wiracocha, an Amazon warrior who was fighting for the right to fulfill her destiny in the Andean world. As Yupanqui's fate seemed to be lost cause, his luck reversed. The Chancas, who were almost victorious in this first encounter, ran away to fight another day. But now they were aware of the superiority of the gods of the Inca. They knew that this war should have been won, and it was in their power to do so. The Incas still had a hold of Cusco, but the prince would have to confront them the next day for a final victory. Again, and perhaps for the last time, Yupanqui fell asleep in the shrine of the Inti Cancha. In the midst of his restless dreams, and as before, Tixi Wiracocha appeared to him. "Young prince, today has also been a bad day for your gods. You fought bravely, but to no avail. Fear not, for as sure as Inti rises from the east, in the morrow you will be the victor, and Cusco will be yours forever." Having lived another day to fight, Cusi Yupanqui awoke invigorated by his revelation. Meanwhile, the Chancas were preparing for what they thought would be the final attack on the sacred city. "Tomai Waraka, our idols deserted us. Were so many, and we had to retreat. Their gods are with them." "No, Astoy Waraka, we retreated because we only fight on the open fields. Our dead warriors have filled their pits. Cusco is free of obstacles. We will raise the city in our descent." "What is that deafening sound coming from the hill?" of Carmenca. Are the Chancas descending again? Yes, Prince. We have no time to offer sacrifices. Bicacurao, we're not only being assailed from the hills, but also from the west and the south. Who are those splendid battalions? Why are they attacking? Why are they not attacking us? We are lost. Let us resign and make good on our oath of dying for Cusco. Oh, Tixi Wiracocha, oh, Inti, you have abandoned me. No, Prince. Those troops are the Canas, the Canchis, and the Collas, whom you had asked to fight for the privilege to be Incas. As the Chancas came roaring down, the prince at the head of a large army advanced shouting to them, Chaya, Chaya. The battle that began in the morning lasted until noon, when the mother of all defeats, fear, began to take hold of the Chancas. Seeing that thousands of their dead and mangled bodies started to pile up, they began their retreat, leaving their idols with great quantities of gold. Although this was not a complete victory for the Incas, warriors from the faraway nations started to join the sons of the sun for the next battle. Cusco was saved. The history of the Incas would endure. If the Chancas had won, would the fate of their descendants have been different? Who knows? The Chancas were not interested in creating great nations. They lived from day to day from the spoils of war, while the Incas were forming an empire so rich in gold that in time it aroused the avarice of the old world. Such is destiny. One never knows for whom one is building a future. They certainly didn't know. Thus, we're entering a new era of the Inca dynasty with a warrior prince loyal to his land and to his people. Apomaita, take the booty of the enemy to my father, so that he knows that Cusco is still his. His general decapitated some of the Chanca captains, and with the prisoners, he departed to Sacsayhuamán. Great Wiracocha, we have won. Your son wants you to know that you are the Lord of Cusco. Guamán Huaraca, do you recognize these gruesome heads? Are they your captains? Yes, great Inca Wiracocha, they are ours. The emissary of the Chancas prostrated on the floor as a new vassal of the Incas. Wiracocha seemed visibly upset by the victory of his son. Apomaita returned to Cusco with the troops of Wiracocha. The Chancas did not accept defeat, and both sides prepared for a definite battle. However, the prince was now the hunter, and Astoy Huaraca the puma on the run. The Chancas made their camp in Ichupampa with 200,000 warriors under his general Malma, Rapa, Yanavilca, and Teclovilca. Cusiyupanqui, dressed in sumptuous war regalia, went to the Aucapata Plaza, where he harangued his army of 100,000 men. Warriors were now fighting with us. Incas you will be, for that is the privilege that you will have. United we will constitute an empire under one God, one emperor, and one language. Before we can accomplish that mandate, we must defeat the Chancas, this time forever. Of the magnificent 7 Incas, 5 continued to the final defeat of the Chancas. The army was divided into 4 divisions of 25,000 men, each under command of Bicacurao, Apomaita, Quilascachi, and Urco Huaraca. The Chancas still had an advantage of 2 of them to 1 of the Incas. As they got closer to Ichupampa, the Incas could see row after row of tents of the numerous Chanca warriors. The prince camped for the night. He didn't want to fight without the light of Inti. Once more, he implored to his idols, Tixi Wiracocha, Apo Inti, you brought us here to defend the right to be our gods. We are not stone warriors, but men of flesh and bones. Protect us, and we will fight until victory is ours. The following day, in brutal man-to-man combat, thousands died in the high noon of their lives. In the midst of battle, Yupanqui saw Wiracocha and the two entangled in a mortal duel. The prince lifted his heavy golden mace and struck him, smashing his head. Having already killed Wiracocha, he ordered that their decapitated heads be shown in spike high above the killing fields. As the Chanca saw the grisly effigies of their generals, they began to flee towards the Apurunac River. The fight that started at midday ended with the sun outlining the faraway mountains, giving the victory to the sons of the sun. Each Upampa feels scattered with thousands cadavers became to be known as Pampa, or the plains of blood. The Inca followed after the fugitive Chancas, led by their leader Anco. In the shores of the Apurima River, another battle ensued. While fighting on the rocky cliffs, a boulder fell on Yupanqui's most trusted captain, Wiracocha. As he lay dying, he spoke to the prince. I have not even begun to fight, and I will die without leaving my seeds. Great Wiracocha, you have fought in all my battles. It is time for you to rest. Warriors, choose the largest tree that you can find. Carve a large hole with my golden axe and place his body inside. The unusual coffin was covered with the bark of the same trunk and sealed with the ashes of the enemy, while the prince in mourning said, Comrade Wiracocha, your body will nurture this tree to produce the fruit that you never procreated, and its leaves will cure the ailments of the soul. After taking the time to bury his field commander in the most curious fashion, Yupanqui's troops crossed the great Apurimac in pursuit of the Chancas, and the enemy finally capitulated. The prince returned to the revenge of the Chancas, who lay dead in the frozen plains of Pampa. He ordered to his men, Inca warriors, the dead cannot die again, but their bodies can placate our vengeance. Remove the entrails of their carcasses, fill them with the bloody icho grass and the ashes of their scattered bones. None of their facial features should be altered. They will become the living dead, and their postures will tell what happened here. Hang some of them with a flute in their mouths, so that the wind will play the saddest lyric of defeat. To the corpses with large waists, let their empty stomachs be our tambours, for us to pound the notes of victory. To the rest of the dead, stuff them in comical position, so that those who antagonize us know that we will no longer be the passive Incas of the past, but forge our destiny with the fury of the gods and defend ourselves with the malice of men. Finished with his speech, the Inca saw in that catacomb the future of his nation. As awakening from a trance, he gazed at the closed mountains, exclaiming, "Who is that man atop those hills of Pampa? He seems to be contemplating the putrefying bodies and feathered skeletons strewn all over. His face shows some pain. Who is he? We're talking about Kuntursoul or Kuntursoul, el alma del cóndor. Prince Yupanqui, he's the man of the future, mourning for what he's seen. Bika Kirao, nobody should spill tears in these fields of triumph that will testify the beginning of our greatness. Let us approach him. Kuntursoul, where have you been? I thought you were with Wiracocha, far away from these bloody plains. Bika Kirao, I have been here witnessing our destiny unfold. But you were so intense in destroying each other that I did not want to involve myself in such a sanguinary war. Oh, you are the man who comes looking for his past. Yes, Prince Yupanqui, I have come to have an encounter with the Inca, whose awesome personality and grand deeds convinced me into taking this journey to find out who we are. The last I saw you, you were younger. With time and the wars, you have matured, and you're not fulfilling the destiny of our race. Then, why are you so deep in thought? Isn't that what you come to see? Great warriors and able leaders? Yes, but I never conceived that greatness would come at such a cost in blood and vengeance to our own. Look at those cadavers hanging from the trees with flutes in their motionless lips, playing with the wheezing wind and natural lyrics that get to the core of what we are capable of doing to ourselves. And the people pounding on those swollen corpses, the deafening notes of our inhumanity resounding who we really are. Kuntursoul, don't you understand that these dead warriors who are now alive in death were our mortal enemies? Perhaps I don't envisage, because you fought in a man-to-man combat, and our killing instincts are more visible. In our present, we no longer fight in the battlefields, but from the distance, and that makes our wars seem more humane. In the end, the results are the same. Killing is killing. Victory is better than defeat, and destinies have to be fulfilled at any cost. Man of the future, you thought that you were going to find in me an Inca incapable of doing what you are witnessing? Isn't that what builds great nations in your times? They don't even leave the dead to be profane. They pulverize the very essence of our humanity. Times have not changed. We will always be the very human beings that God created, unless we become humans like the gods that we imagine. Let us stop this conversation. Tell me if in your times our people know who I was. You, the greatest Inca who ever lived, the Caesar of the Andes, and yet your descendants have no recollection of who you were. Perhaps they don't know. They don't now, because I won my battles with cruelty. No, it goes deeper than that. You or other sovereigns did. In my times, the Indians and mestizos of all Americas have purposely buried their past, while other races have built great nations solely on who they were, and they carry in them the pride of their former self. Then your press is not being forged on the foundations of my Inca heritage. I am disappointed to tell you that the empire you left us has evolved into a third world country by hiding its past. The hope of your descendants is that someday no more Indians are left to attest to the fact that we once existed as Incas. although we all carry that legacy in our veins and in our mestizo faces. That is why we need to get to the core of who you were. You have been dead in our subconscious far too long. My meeting ended with this awesome personality whose piercing eyes and powerful voice remind me who we were and what we could be capable of becoming. But we don't. Why not? Apomaita, we have avenged the dead. Now we will take revenge on the living. Bring the heads of Astoy Wiraca and Tomai Wiraca, and have my jewelers line up their empty skulls with gold to serve me as vases. The prince arrived at the site of the Ayarmancas. Tokai Kapak. For years we have tried to appease you with presents. You even kidnapped my grandfather and had the audacity to ally with the Chancas. Did you think of the future of the Incas? Great Kusiyupanqui, vanquisher of the Chancas. In your veins you carry our blood. We deserve your clemency. You cannot blame us for what happened. We had no other choice but to look after our own. That is why my father abandoned Cusco, because you were against the fulfillment of our destiny. For that, I shall imprison you to rot in life. This will be my policy with traitors like you. The prince with his great army entered the sacred city at the sound of the shells. The band of flutes play martial tunes accompanied by the human tambours. The stuffed cadavers of the Chancas were paraded in mocking positions, and the captives commanded to lie down while the nobles walked over them. Kusiyupanqui was de facto sovereign, and the people clamored that he be crowned. He refused, and he spoke to the multitude. My victories are not valid reasons to crown myself. I will go to see my father, the Sapa Inca. Taking the booty and the prisoners, the prince went to see Wiracocha and his half-brother, both of whom have denied him the right to continue with the lineage of the Yupanquis. Between the Urubamba Valley and the low jungles of Paucartambo, a fortress surrounded by a chain of high mountains and deep ravine could be seen. After an arduous climb and already in Sacsayhuamana, Wiracocha seemed to be indisposed with his son's arrival. Only his mother was happy to see the prince, to whom she whispered in his ear, "Oh, my son, you are magnanimous, but beware. Kurichulpa and her son Urku are planning something sinister." Father Wiracocha, I am bringing you the spoils of war. I want you to honor our deeds by walking over the prisoner, as is the custom of the victor. If you do so, I will know that you acknowledge my triumph. I will accept what you brought, but I am not the one who should walk over the vanquished. That privilege belongs to Urko, whom you must respect as the future Lord. Father, he will not put one foot over the Chancas, who are more honorable in defeat than he is with our victory. In effect, Wiracocha and Urca were planning a malevolent strategy. Urco, tomorrow I alone will perform the ritual of walking over the prisoners. If Kusiyupanqui refuses and he decides to return, attack him on the path that leads to the sacred city. Urco placed his warriors on the skirts of the road, not knowing that Vika Kirao was coming from Cusco, and who sensed that something was suspicious. Father Wiracocha, for the last time I ask you to allow to walk over the prisoners and come to Cusco with me. I will only if the two of us are alone in a room. The prince also felt that something was planned. He secretly ordered Inca Kirao to place his warriors at a higher place than Urco's men. If what he was suspecting was true, he would give a signal to Inca Kirao to come down upon them. My son, one of the reasons I want this ceremony to take place only between the two of us is because I left Cusco, an embarrassing situation for me to be in. Father, I want everybody to know that you are still the Sapa Inca. If you insist on both of us going along, I will return to Cusco. As planned, Inca Kirao saw a sign and his men began their descent. Urco, Yupanqui's troops are coming down on us. What are your instructions? To hell with all of you. It is every man for himself. Inca Kirao, seeing him running away, whirled a stone with his sling, hitting him in the head. Urco fell in the rapids of the Tambo River and drowned. Yupanqui was saved. His generals wanted to crown him, now that Urco was not in between him and Wiracocha. No, I won't accept it. As long as my father is alive, he is the only one who can pass the crown to me. I had to create order in the transfer of power. Succession has always been our problem. I am not going to let him happen in my watch. Great Prince, the people also want you to take the crown. Kuntursoul, the masses are not to be trusted. As soon as they see someone who is beneficial to them, they will try to do away with the one who is in the throne. Cusco is the center of power, and as in any other site of political authority, intrigues are the norm. I will return to the sacred city that has been ravaged by the war, and there is much work to be done. Meanwhile, I hope my father will come to his senses. The prince was so obsessed with being accepted by his rejecting father that he elevated this love-hate relationship to the heights of a Shakespearean melodrama, not uncommon in the world of kings and princes, and the state of expectancy. He would become a great builder and political administrator until his father decided to transfer him the throne. Kuntursoul, perhaps you are pondering on my legacy. I hope you realize that among all my human frailties, ingratitude is not one of them. I will give credit to those who helped me to win the war against the Chancas. I hope not to miss anyone, for it's not always possible to reward everybody for the favors received, sometimes a costly mistake. Prince, those are words of wisdom. At times, our benefactors become our worst enemies, deeds that diminish us as a nation or as a person. For gratitude is the cornerstone of magnanimity. Unless we cultivate this attribute, we will always be insignificant in the world. You are describing my father, who even tried to do away with me. It goes without saying that as much as we're ungrateful, we also anticipate some return for the very favors that we do. Kuntursoul, you can make mountains our human discrepancies. Must everything that we said or did have to have a deeper meaning? What you said or did had much more significance in my days, and the reason for my exaggeration. Be as it may, I was saying that ungrateful I'm not, especially to the gods that helped me in my most desperate moments. I will begin by refurbishing the temple of the sun and turning it into a temple of gold, the Wiracocha. Prince, it's difficult to understand how much of our history is based on religion, beginning with Manco Cápac, who, posed himself as the son of the sun, a fact that has already been questioned by you and your father, since both of you claim that Tixi Wiracocha Pacha Chiquit is the creator of all. Could it be that you are apostatizing against Inti, the god of the people? Oh no, Inti is still my idol. But the night before the Chancas were going to attack us, I asked myself who created Inti that give us light only half of the time. I thought that there must be another entity higher than him. You are right and question the divinity of Inti. Tell me, has it ever occurred to you what is the shape of our world? In other words, is the land that you call Pachamama or Mother Earth is flat or round? What lies past the horizon? A thought entertained by the ancient thinkers until intrepid adventurers venture to find out what lies beyond where the sky appears to meet the oceans, which is not necessarily where the sun goes to sleep. Had you not been thinking in terms of religion, you would also have come closer to some answers to your questions. You seem to have an explanation for everything. I say, I don't know if you are trying to diminish me because you come from the future. No, I am only trying to assess your ways of thinking according to the knowledge of your days. Then I will give you another reason why Inti is not a supreme God. How is it that such a brilliant object is overshadowed by the thinnest of clouds? One would think that with its eternal furnaces, it should melt everything that comes in its path. What you want to say is that there is another powerful entity who is in control of all these demigods, as you have already concluded. More important yet, it is to understand the essence of who our Maker is and inquire why we have appalling ways of worshiping Him. Nevertheless, whoever the Supreme Being is, I had to thank Him for helping me. As far as Cusco, I will give myself a time of 5 years to rebuild this city of clay. Eager to start with his project, he called his masons and explained them of his plans. Master builders, we have been in the land of the Tiahuanacos, and we have seen how those ancient people built massive structures that will last for eons. I intend to do nothing less. The Incas began to build the golden temple that in time will be adorned with the riches of the Andes. Nobles, we must prepare for consecration once it's finished. I want the leaders from all the surroundings of the Valley of Cusco to come. I will explain what I want them to do. Nobles, now that you have seen this magnificent temple, I need you to return with offerings and bring your most beautiful children. Children, what for? For sacrifices, Kuntursoul. Inca, in the history of mankind, children were sacrificed, and in our present days, they are neglected. Reconsider this abominable act. The gods, if there are any, are not asking you to slaughter them. Don't you understand that religion is an imagination of men to answer our most primordial beginnings? Kuntursoul, we perform these rituals to satiate the god thirst for blood. You, the greatest Inca who ever lived, should be the protector of the most cherished possession any civilization has, their children. A people that disdain them is a nation without a soul, despised by the same gods whom we all claim to be just. Man of the future, you must understand that I'm just beginning to consolidate the empire, and the people expect these sacrifices from me. Maybe they wanted you to do this appalling act, but in this journey, let's bury this disgraceful chapter of our history if it actually happened. All that the Inca had ordered was brought, including the beautiful children who were dressed in white and walked in pairs as if to be married. Had the sacrifice taken place, according to some chronicles, the children would have been given chicha to numb their senses, and after a sumptuous dinner, they were sacrificed. However, at this gathering and on the trip to the past, these children sang and smiled, perhaps as it actually happened. Man of the future, in spite of trying to deny our history, you portray us as if we were the only ones executing these loathsome acts. Young Prince, advanced civilizations offered human sacrifices in ancient times. Since they had the knowledge of writing, they described them in gory details, proof that this heinous act took place for the same reason that you had, and all in the name of a God. As an observer, you should tell our history like it was, and not an adulterated version of what you believe is right. Let us continue with your desire to rectify our faults that are also humanity's. I want you to know that my victories I owe to the apparition of a child that I had in my dreams. In his likeness, I want a statue of solid gold to be made. You already have a golden image of the sun. Isn't that enough? Your legacy of a warrior and a builder is going to be obscure due to your incessant fetish with idols. People want to hear of your great battles and conquests. Kuntursoul, I have to reaffirm our political infrastructure based on religion, just as Manco Cápac intended to be. Great Prince Yupanqui, we have finished the statue that you have ordered. It weighs so much that it has to be carried in a litter. Inca, you have made an effigy of with the same idea as in the old world, which is to create the image of God. Then we're no different. Deep in our souls, we're all the same when it comes to our beliefs. Your descendants still worship the idols of their past through a statue of a child, which is not made of gold, but of alabaster. Let us end this discussion that I also believe in this child. Tell me more about your great civil constructions. Where are you going to get all the manpower to complete your projects? There is not enough people left in Cusco after the war, and many feel so privileged that they would rather be priests or bureaucrats. I had to convince them by giving them land and women. I thought you were through with reciprocity. I had to follow the policy of giving and receiving favors with those who don't want to join us. I will explain my plan to them while I have a banquet, the only way to give credibility to my intentions. The prince spoke to them. People, you know the importance of having fertile lands, and in the future we will need more. I will give you parcels of land to work as it was yours. Return in 1 year with all that you have harvested, and also bring building materials for a project that I have in mind. They all came with the surplus of the harvest and all that the Inca had asked for. Now you can see the power of collective work. The surplus that you have brought needs to be stored so that we will always have food in times of need and we start to go on expedition. For courage will only get us close to our graves, but logistics will give us victory. As the workers proceeded to rebuild the city, he noticed that men were using their only clothes for this hard work. He ordered that garments and blankets be made to be used as aprons. The woman began weaving and storing them for the future use. Nobles, we're going to need more people. If we're ever going to embark on more expeditions, I want you to go and marry the young men and women from different provinces. With the mixing of their blood, there will be kinship in the land. Before you leave, I'm personally going to join in marriage some young people in Cusco, so that you will know how I want it to be done. In great pageantry, he united young couples from different areas of the city, giving them clothing as their wedding gifts. At the same time, the accountants were taking census for the first time for the first time. Inca, I am bewildered with the originality of your enterprises, and you are accomplishing them without much effort. I am able to do that because I still have the bounty of the Chancas. Once finished, I have to go and unify other nations in order to continue with my projects. On this unusual trip to my past, I returned my present to the city of my birth on another of my medical missions. While in Cusco, I went to see the remains of Yupanqui Palace that nowadays is a restaurant. Sitting there, I admire what was left of this historical place. What a desecration of the dwelling of the most powerful Inca. 2 walls, one with 3 empty niches, and on the other wall, a painting portraying him in a splendid regalia. My thoughts went to the times in which those very same walls were covered with gold, and its niches the heaviest of golden idols. To allow this transcendental structure not to even be named after him shows our ingratitude for the man who left us the country that we now call Peru. Man of the future, you are back to our times. Tell me if Cusco has changed. The city that you once rebuilt is now scattered with ruins that attest to the greatness of our past, but with a visible demeanor of your descendants. Many of them walking aimlessly looking for work as cargadores, a word for which there is not an equivalent meaning in my adopted language, other than consider them human beasts of cargo. While shopping, I asked a young Inca, now in India, and a cargador to help me with my heavy bags. I did it mainly to establish a conversation and to give him a job for the moment. The saddest thing is not the type of work they do, but the way they are perceived. With the ignorance of the greatness of his ancestors etched in the stones of the past, he called me papai. My heart was crushed at the indignity he was calling me, father, in such a reverential tone that was disgusting to hear. Inca, what I'm trying to tell you is that we're in the dawn of the 21st century, and your descendants are in the gutters of the annals of human history. Stop describing them. My soul cannot stand such a degradation of human spirit. Just tell me if my words are still standing. Only great men like you can feel the ire when their own people are humiliated. Then you keep on coming to your place of birth only to find us so much humiliation our people. Why? Because it is my ancestral land. And when I place my hands over the same stones that you once touched, I feel the essence of what made us great. Perhaps someday a second Inca Yupanqui would come to deliver us from the pits of infamy. If that were to happen, how would he be received? If that Inca came, he would not be accepted by his own people. I am beginning to understand the acceptance among ourselves that you want to promote. I pity you because nothing will ever change in your days. However, I was able to accomplish that union in 1 generation. You were an absolute leader, sometimes the only way to make change for the benefit or the detriment of a nation. In my times, that would be politically incorrect because everybody has a right to democracy. Are you calling me a tyrant? Why, why are you comparing our system of government with that of others? Ours was a way of getting out of the same situation that our descendants find themselves in your present. Indians were waiting for someone to return their dignity, which democracy is not doing. If we had been allowed more time in our political development, we would have also evolved to a better mode of government, perhaps something similar to democracy, but it would have been ours and not an imported notion. The prince sent his novels to marry the young people from different regions. Once back, the novels asked him, how would you go about keeping track of time? A concept contrived in the old world to create some sense of order in our lives. Probably with no other meaning than looking at the clock of our existence to listen to the tick and tock that each minute bring us closer to our death. Kusi Yupanqui will not be left behind by the men of antiquity. He came up with the idea of making an orderly tracking not of time, but of the solstices. Novels, ever since I can remember, I have been observing the movements of the sun, and I have seen that there is a set pattern in its trajectory, so exact that it coincides with the stations as to when the soil is to be sowed, watered, and harvested. He divided the year accordingly. November being the last month, and December the new year, and the rainy season. How did you record these seasonal changes? You didn't have a calendar. Kuntursoul, for years I have been following every morning and every afternoon where the sun rises and where it sets. I instructed that pillars of stone be placed on the hills to mark those events that occur during a year. So, in essence, you were marking the seasons and not the 12 months of the 365 days, like the calendar of the old world. If you were to look every day at the movements of Inti, you would also make some sense of this phenomenon. Thus, the prince rebuilt the house of worship, constructed and filled the storehouses, canalized the rivers, and recorded the seasons. However, the center of the future empire was still a humble hamlet. He ordered his assistants to bring the plans that he had made in clay, and he explained to them, as you can see, the outline of the city will be that of a puma. In all, the master builders looked at the model. They thought of the mammoth task of transporting boulders, some as large as houses. To do that, he formed the biggest construction company of his time. He evacuated the people to leave the city of adobes, with the exception of some of the structures that his ancestors had built. Once the sacred city was surveyed, he requested that long cords be brought, and he began to trace the lots and streets of the new earth. As the foundations were being placed, the stone masons cut the great boulders and polished them into a shape typical of the Inca architecture that is still seen in Cusco. Thousands of workers, and years later the city was reconstructed. The difficult task of distribution came up. Novels, I have gathered you to discuss a pressing matter that will transcend our history. We fought to get a foothold of this triangular piece of land. Now that it's ours, it should be divided in two sectors, as it has already been tried before. I have chosen the Coricancha temple to be the center of the division. To the south, the Urin Cusco or Lower Cusco, and to the north, the Anan Cusco or Upper Cusco. But where to place whom, it is a difficult decision to make. We have had disloyal people who have abused their privilege, and I will not let this happen again. I have no greater honor than to have my three comrades in arms, Bicakirao, Apomaita, and Kilaskachi, inhabit the lower part. You have been loyal to me and to this city. In the sunset of your lives, you have your own clans and leave your descendants well endowed with land and nobility. Soon I will be leaving on campaign, and you are too old to accompany me. I prefer to have you here while I am away, for loyalty in this land is a very precious commodity. I wish the best in your old age. I hope I have compensated you well, and my legitimate descendants will inhabit the heights above Cusco. Inca illegitimacy should have nothing to do with political equality. Kuntursoul, in our days, our lords had many concubines, begot children of low caste who were unfit to receive the crown. I feel that we still have that same mentality. And knowingly, you could have fostered the fall of the empire. I, who saw the rise of the Incas, yes, because a civil war between half-brothers put an end to your legitimate descendants. All that remains of the Inca nobility are illegitimate people, the mestizos. Only the petuous foundations of what you built have lasted to attest, as silent witness, what class division can do to a nation. Kuntursoul, the people must do what they have to in order to change their destiny. Is that why you expatriated the original people of Cusco? Those ancient inhabitants allowed the first Incas to inhabit among them, although in a constant state of hostilities, nevertheless let you live in together. Perhaps I made a mistake by removing them. They should have had a place of privilege in the heart of the city. That is exactly what happened to all the Indians in the newfound continent. Even the great giant of the north, for the natives also welcomed the newcomers from the old world, the pilgrims. Now their descendants and others who keep on coming from all over the planet are displacing the North American Indians to lands that nobody wanted or wants, except that when they find some valuable natural resources on their so-called reservations, they are displaced once more. Oh, they were removed but not killed. That's magnanimous of them. Yes, the newcomers displaced the Indians in legal ways, which is a civilized way to take what was not theirs. However, in the south of those borders, Central South America, acts of genocides are still being committed against the Indians by no other than their own half-brothers, the mestizos. Why can these so-called Indians be allowed to go on forage anywhere they want? The land is for everyone and belongs to no one. Yes, there are those natives and mestizos who try to relocate for their own survival as freely as their ancestors did, but the emigres of the old world divided the North world among themselves, creating imaginary borders, and presently persecute them in the name of illegal immigration in all the American continent. Really? They are not allowed to roam in a land that was and is theirs? Yes, and those first migrants came illegally to occupy the new world under the edge of the sword and self-serving ideologies. Kuntursoul, they were the conquerors, just as we have been at one time, and they don't have to give any rights to the conquered. That is the law of humanity. Stop complaining, nobody's going to listen to you. That is why they call us Indians, for being unable to overcome the degrading situation in which we all live in our ancestral lands. Thus, we're coming to the end of the first period of Kusi Yupanqui as a prince, and fast approaching to the demise of his father's reigns. We have witnessed how he had evolved from a young warrior to a builder and a visionary, capable of being the next Inca lord. Prince Yupanqui, we feel that it's time for you to take the crown. Nobles, as long as my father is out of exile, I will not accept the crown unless it's given to me by him. He has not done so. Even if his favorite son, Urco, is dead, I will wait until he dies or changes his mind. You should enjoy your free time. Soon we will be going on expeditions. We thought that since we're not busy, we could be preparing for your coronation, wedding, and change of name. Novels, we will leave everything as is, perhaps my father's wishes. The novels left the palace that seemed more like engineer study, with models of clay and stone scattered all over. Not deterred by his rejection, the nobles decided to go on their own and ask his father to relinquish the crown to his son. Great Wiracocha, so many years have passed and you are still defiant. Novels, I have been forgotten in this paradise of desolation, and in my old age you come to see me. What for? Sapa Inca Wiracocha, come with us to Cusco and live the rest of your days as the father of the greatest lord of the land. No, that I will not do, even if he himself asks me. He is not requested that you come to Cusco. We, as your vassals, are asking you to grant us his favor. Reconsider and do this one last honorable deed before you leave this world. It is not good to die with a wounded heart. Your son could have crowned himself, but he doesn't want to usurp your throne. He desires to lead nations under rules, not an empire in chaos, and you are an impediment. Novels, I have long ago removed from my head the crown of lordship. You can take this string of wool and tell him that it's his. Inca, he wishes that you personally crown him, otherwise he will not accept it. Novels, I think I will. I am too old to harbor any more ill feelings towards him. I must put order in my affairs of the soul before I die. Who knows, with this act of reconciliation, I might cleanse my past. I know what I have done, and my guilt is greater than my pride. Take me to him. I am ready to face the one who caused my disgrace. The word of his coming was heard all over the empire. The prince would go halfway to meet his father, and both enter Cusco as if they were coming from a victorious war. Wiracocha was very old. He rode too rough on his body, in spite of his well-cushioned litter and his many carriers. On his descent from the heights of Haquibawana, he pensively admired the beauty of the valley that he so willingly traded for Cusco, a blunder that haunted him. He was aware that he was going to meet the people and the city he had abandoned in their most dire moments of need. Worse yet, encountered the very man who did otherwise, and why his unwillingness to come to terms with the greatness of his son. With the trembling of his hands, Wiracocha was barely able to hold himself on the golden candles of his litter. Traveling on the open land, he remembered when as a young warrior, he fought in those same fields to enlarge the empire that he abdicated for the quietness of the isolation of the mountains. Deep in the inner ringing years of his aged ears, he could hear the cries of battle that no longer carried the smell of or sight of death. He recalled the intrigues of the neighboring factions who did not support him, the reason for not fighting against the Sánchez. All these thoughts came to him, perhaps realizing that as we age, we can only think of the unwelcome events in our lives that relentlessly remind us of our mistakes. Oh, poor Inca Wiracocha, I have also abandoned him in this horrible chapter of our history. Like others, I too was on the doings of the young prince who was like a magnet, and no one could avoid being attracted by his charismatic personality. However, the prince will also age and end up being a bitter old man. Unfortunately, no one knows the antidote against the decay of the human spirit, and eventually we all must come to grips with the finality of our own nothingness. Even this trip to my past, is an assertion of that emptiness of the ancient heart, where I am writing of something that is out of touch with reality, feeling not only remorseful for whatever wrong I might have done in my life, but also regretful of what happened to my ancestors. Man of the future, are you daydreaming? Have you heard that my father is coming? We're going to welcome him like the king he is. Oh, this is the happiest day of my life. Finally, my father will honor me with his presence. Couriers, take me half the way to where I want to meet him. There in the solitude of the Andes, we will make peace in our souls and bury the bad memories that tore our relationship apart. Kuntursoul, come along. Perhaps you can tell me of similar events in your times. Yes, there were and there are many incidents like yours. But for now, you should make preparation for your coronation. You don't think that Wiracocha is returning to see the renewed city and live. He's coming to crown you with his own hands. Oh, I see. My nobles asked him to come to place the crown on me. But it doesn't matter. Now they know that only he can pass the power to the next Inca. If they understand that, they have heard my message. Nothing that was said by you is without a purpose, just like your descendants who must conceal their true intentions, careful not to reveal their self-interest. You could be right. I still hold some rancor against my father. However, deep in my heart, I want this reconciliation to be a good augur for the empire. Nevertheless, I fear that in my state of ire, something awful might take place. I mean, no bodily harm to him, but some of my actions, as imperceptible as it might seem to be, may denounce my true feelings. I am an Inca, and we don't forget the wrong done to us. Nobles, pass the word to friend and foe to come and receive my father. This is the start of a new era. From now on, the empire is going to be on a continuous climb to the glory of the sun. At a distance, the two of them took sight of their leaders. The moment of truth had come. With their past bitterness interfere with the reunion. As they came closer, his father appeared to be void of any emotions. He remained seated with his head down, perhaps expecting the prince to make the first gesture of reconciliation. Father, look at me. I am your son. Seeing him indifferent, the prince jumped into his litter and embraced his father, who didn't seem to respond. Suddenly tears began to pour down his tortured face, and could feel the pain that Wiracocha was suffering. Perhaps he thought this moment would never come. While the sun ascended, this encounter seemed to last an eternity. Seeing such an uncertainty, one of the matrons gave them chicha to uplift the drowning moment and clear the dry throat. At last, Overcome by the love of his son, Wiracocha placed his arm around him and began sobbing as he never had, reminiscing in silence of their past relations. Together they continued their trip. In the vastness of the faraway Cordilleras, both remained in complete silence until they came to the gates of New Cusco. As they entered in the city, the people prostrated themselves, avoiding an eye contact with either one of the two Incas. Wiracocha spoke with some effort. Is this the same Cusco that I left? So magnificent and so different. Only Inca could have changed this city. Prince Yupanqui, you are the hurricane of the times. You have the power of destruction and reconstruction. Triumphantly, their heavy litters stopped in the great Aucapata Plaza. With one hand, the prince helped his father step down while raising his stuffed sovereign with the other as a sign of victory. The people responded by chanting loudly his name. Slowly, the two men sat on their golden seats. The virgins of the sun brought 2 jars of fresh chicha. Looking at the vases, the prince perceived that this was not the time to toast. After some silence, Wiracocha, awed by reception, spoke to the prince. My son, I can hardly utter what I feel. Before I die of grief and remorse, I want to do something for you. In front of the multitude, looking straight to the eyes of the prince, Wiracocha continued speaking in a low voice that could only be heard by those closer to them. You are the son of the sun and the embodiment of Tipsy Wiracocha. Only with the help of the gods you could have done all that I see. I ask forgiveness for having doubt of your ability and divinity. Refusing any help, Wiracocha began to remove his aged woolen crown from his head as he kept whispering, Prince Yupanqui, let me place my crown on you. I made this act signal the end of my life as a lord. Having crowned the Inostrapa Inca, Wiracocha spoke to his son. Inca Yupanqui, for this instant on and forever, may all the people and nations know of you as the Pachacute, the one who transforms the times. Sunken in grief, his soul was relieved from the anguish that he had carried for so long. What he never wanted to do, it was done. Pachacute, Pachacute, Pachacute. As the cheers reverberated from the mountains that surround the Cusco, the Andea people began murmuring to themselves, the one who changes the world, the one who returns the lands, the one who transforms the times. Is he really all that? They all thought that he was. As the chanting of his new name had quieted down, the two sovereigns looked at each other. The last time that Wiracocha would do so, because in the eyes of Pachacute there was fire as never seen before, perhaps due to the glory of the moment of his ire against his father. Still standing and looking stern, Pachacute ordered the virgins of the sun to bring the dirtiest of jars containing old chicha. The old Inca looked at the clean jars of fresh brew and the empty silver vases, perhaps wondering why his son ordered doubt. Once more, Wiracocha timidly tried to look directly at Pachacute's face, but the flame of his son's bloody eyes made him look down. Sapa Inca Pachacute, here's the unclean jars containing the foulest of leftover chicha that you have requested. It needs to be emptied and washed. No, give that solid brew of maize to my father and serve me the fresh one. Taita, I want you to drink that old chicha. Wiracocha held a slippery jar of putrid maize beer close to his nose. Without breathing, he began to drink in gulps that could be heard in the silence of the moment. While he was looking at his son and not his son's eyes, "Father, finish it all." Wiracocha imbibed the vinegar-tasting liquid. Then he threw down the empty pestilent clay container and prostrated on the floor, begging for Pachacuti's forgiveness. "Taita, I don't have to pardon you for anything. It is Cusco and its people who have absolved you. That is why you drank from that filthy container, so that the foulness of that chicha give you the taste of bitterness that you brought upon us." Drooling from the acid liquid, Wiracocha began to chant while hitting his head with his hands. "It is my fault. It is my fault." Finally, Pachacuti's flaming eyes widened with the calming of his ire. As he regained his composure, he extended an arm to his father, relieving him from his misery. "Father, I have humiliated you in this way, so that the people know that you have paid your debts to them. Now you are free. Come to my palace, where we will reminisce of the old days. I have no more ill feelings towards you. I have always loved and respected you. As your last mandate, choose among your daughters a bride for my marriage." If their emotions had not been so charged, the transfer of power would have been a joyous occasion. However, the wedding uplifted the somber scene of the previous episode. Pachacute married his legitimate sister, Anahuarqui, the most beautiful and intelligent of Wiracocha's daughter. The celebration lasted for months, and Pachacute told his father, "Taita, you have made me the happiest son. I am ready for the next stage of my life, and I will transform the world as the Pachacute that you have named me." Wiracocha, no longer in dirty mood, responded, "Do what Inti has designed for you. You are the tempest that will change the times. From the high Andes, I will follow your triumphs and accomplishments." The old Inca, exhausted from all the ceremonies, requested that he be allowed to return to his family. "Father, go back to Sacsayhuaman. Remember that you will always be welcome in the city that you once left." Years later, at an advanced age, Wiracocha became ill, and as I have done with the previous Inca's lord, I went to see him before his departure to the next world. "Inca Wiracocha, talk to us before you go to the side of Inti. Man of the future, what do you want me to tell you that you don't already know?" "Great Wiracocha, tell us what you feel in your heart, even if what happened in your life is what beseech you in this moment of anguish." "Kuntursoul, only at the end of my life I find some solace. Now I realize that as father, I have failed the son who loved me the most. To whom can I ask for an explanation? Did it happen because it was his destiny? Perhaps you, who come from the future, can give me some answers to end this pain that mines my soul, and I die in peace in this encounter. Inca Wiracocha, nothing is known of the abatement of the soul that sometimes guides us on the wrong path. I don't have any answers. But the most important thing is that one understands the wrongs done and mends them while one is alive. In the end, that is what matters the most. You have done that, and you should no longer have any remorse. Tell us of your wishes for our future generations." Perhaps this will be the saddest chapter of our emotional past. Now I see that we have failed as a nation. We're the same, and yet we repudiate each other. Why? Man of the future, you who have traveled with us, tell our people that we must have a change of our hearts so that we can live in harmony. Otherwise, we will always be bitter to ourselves. Tell them how you feel about our history, even if they detest you for saying it. For I also have the same pain when I hear that my descendants are in the gutters of humanity. Tell them to break their shackles of intolerance to each other, and hand in hand from the change of tolerance for all. Tell them that they alone are blamed for the situation they are in, for not respecting one another. Tell them not to ever scorn their own blood, as I lauded my own at one time. Tell them to overcome the legacy that I left, and transcend high above this scourge of the world, so that we may say from the depths of our beings, yes, we have felt the fall of the Incas, but someday we will see the rise of the Indians. Wiracocha's anguished face finally rested in the nothingness of our remembrances to hear him no more. Let us hope that the Incas of today remember his last words. Rise your souls and no longer be Indians.